let me show you on the chart, and I'll show you actually on the broker as well. So let me just show you on the chart first and foremost. So let's go to pound Kiwi first and foremost. So pound Kiwi, I've just literally made this to break even in the past 10 minutes.
I know it's gonna hurt, but you're worth fighting for.
Just want to do a quick disclaimer as well, because I always get this on comments as well. This is not something that I'm giving in terms of advice. This is more so just documenting my own process, because don't forget, I've taken months and months and months to refine my own process and come up with an ideal situation for myself. So this is just me purely sharing that knowledge that I've learned, that I've applied into my own trading, and what I've found to be a personal benefit. So hopefully by me sharing this, it comes across in a good way, and hopefully you've gain benefit from this. So that's gonna be good. But yeah, with that quick disclaimer out of the way, let's get into this episode. So once again as well, just a quick thing to highlight, I'm not going to be going into entry specifics just because of respect to the strategy that I'm trading. I don't want to give away too much information, but at the same time I'm just going to be basically outlining what I'm forecasting on a basic concept, so that you guys know what I'm looking for. And then if these trades develop, I will then take them and you can see what I'm forecasting and then what actually materializes in the real live market. So you're going to see this concept come to life and how the trade plays out as well. So hopefully this is going to help. So let's get into this. So if we take a look at the daily chart, why am I looking at this trade? Well, we can see that we have this ray line in here. These are previous highs from October 19 on the daily time frame. So looking at this ascending formation leading up to this double top, so it's an area of value for me to be looking for the trade to the downside. Now, we have all the characteristics within this pattern for me to be looking for the selling opportunity. So all I'm really looking for here is something along the lines of this. If we get something like this, then this is going to be ideal. So as we can see, we've got this third touch, second touch, and then third touch. As you can see, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. This is more so I'm paying attention to the significant touches. So we've had 1, the move off, second, the move off. Now we're getting that third. So ideally looking for entries in these areas. And how I'm going to be looking to take that is I'll be looking to take that from the top here. Pound New Zealand, wouldn't be unusual to get a 40 pip stop, maybe even tighter, to be completely honest. Let's be more accurate with this actually. If I'm using the 15-minute chart, what am I looking for? Anything like this. Let's just tighten that up. Let's just grab that again. Looking for anything like this, and the reason I'm redoing this is just because I want to be a lot more accurate on the 15, just to show you a clear indication of what I'm looking at. So all I'm doing here, by the way, there's a little tool on TradingView, I've mentioned this previous times, but it's called Bars Pattern. Really helpful tool when it comes to forecasting, so give that a try for yourself. So yeah, if we get any opportunities here on the 15-minute chart, well, what I usually do is I'll go to the 1 hour, use this as the main analysis part for my entry, but then I'll use the 15-minute just as a more accurate tool, just to get in more precisely and more accurately. So if we look at something like this, once again, it doesn't have to be exactly like it's going to play out, but it's just forecasting is more so, no matter how accurate or no matter how vague you are, the more accurate the better in my opinion. But as long as you know what you're looking for, that is the most important thing, and that's how I've found it. So I've come across traders that are pretty vague with their forecasting, but also do really well, and then I consider myself a lot more accurate, and that just personally helps me know exactly what I'm looking for. So if we just take a look at that price action, and then let's grab the bars pattern to replay tool again to this price action here, and let's just mirror this. So here's what I'm going to be looking at. Right, ideally it's a little bit lower, like this. Let's flip this. Yeah, you can see what I'm looking at, right? So looking at this 1, 2, 3, ideally we get an entry within these areas. Whether it forms like that remains to be seen. Doesn't have to be exact like I said before, but just outlining this area in my mind so that it's already imprinted, so that when this setup occurs, there's no real hesitation. That's the thing with forecasting that I found a personal benefit from. It cuts out, I'd say not all of the hesitation, but it cuts out 80% of the hesitation for me personally. So, I've been in that situation before where you see a trade in the live markets, maybe you've not prepared for it, and you see it and then you start hesitating. It's like, oh, should I take this trade? Should I not take this trade? What if this happens? And you stack all the confluence factors, but it's like, that candle formation isn't perfect. I'm not going to take the trade. So you kind of talk yourself out of the trade. But what I found forecasting, a great thing about forecasting is that it's a proactive state of mind to be in because you're preparing in advance. It's like backtesting in reverse, So you're just putting yourself in the best possible situation to capitalize on the trades, in my opinion. So looking for that trade from the top to the downside, and then I'll also be looking for an entry down here as well. So that's ideally what I'm looking for. But what I want to do very quickly is actually just take you a look on the charts, just to give you an insight into the actual live thought process of what I'm going through right now on pound Aussie and pound Kiwi. So first and foremost, pound Kiwi, if you take a look at the daily chart, we have this bigger double top and price has broken this previous height in the form of an ascending channel. So essentially this is just catching people on the wrong side of the market, which I like. And then on the 1 hour chart, what do we have? Well, we have this 3-touch structure. Obviously the ideal entry was this morning at around 2 a.m. However, we've got 2 different scenarios that could form here, so I am paying attention to how the price forms. Now if we bring this back an hour, right, I was looking at this to see if this was the move down and this was just the correction to then push lower from here. That is the impulse, this is the correction to get short. So quick update, so I've just been working away this morning. It's now late morning, just been getting on with a few things. So that pound Kiwi trade has now been moved to break even, so I'm going to show you on the chart right now. And I also got involved with pound Aussie short as well. I just forgot to film because I was caught up in a few things, but let me show you on the chart and I'll show you actually on the broker as well. So let me just show you on the chart first and foremost. So let's go to pound Kiwi first and foremost. So pound Kiwi, I've just literally moved this to break even in the past 10 minutes. So yeah, going to see how that plays out, but because we're at this low, or we approach that low, I'm happy to move that to break even. Pound Aussie is taking a little bit more time, it didn't drop as much, so just waiting on this one right now, so this is still risk open on this one, but just going to see how these two play out. And as you can see, profit targets around here, but we're just going to monitor price action around these areas as well, so that's going to be interesting. But actually in terms of what does that look like on the broker, so let me get this up. So that is currently pound Aussie. If you can see that, as you can see that red line on the top of the screen, that is where my stop is, so completely above that high, which is good. And then pound Kiwi, as you can see that red line is currently at the entry point, so that means my stop is moved to break even. So once again, just going to monitor these. Right guys, so what you basically saw in that little mini clip from a previous video is that I took the trade. So I think it was, let's have a look. It was the 26th of February, so I think it was literally a day after I filmed that first clip. So I took the trade, and once again, I knew the high value area that price was in, hence why I was, dropped to the 15-minute chart for the entry to then get involved in that trade in alignment with my plan. So happy with the trade overall. So how did the trade play out? That is the ultimate question that I'm sure you're asking yourself. But before we get into that, I think the most important thing that I want to mention is that it's more so the process itself versus the outcome of the trade. So no matter whether the trade was a win, a loss, or break even, it's more so the process that you follow consistently, because if you follow that consistently, as a side effect of that, results will then come. So if we just have a look at how this played out. So once again, just to have a quick run through what I was looking at, we can see that prices at a bigger double top. We'd already broken these previous highs, which was good confidence for myself. And then if we drop to the 4 hour, I've just gotten rid of that ray line just to clear things up, but we know the value area that price is in. We had the 3-touch channel, we had the 4 hour retrace, that was a clean, and then we had the continuation on lower time frames. Now, my ideal entry was here. And let me talk about why I didn't take that. So as you can see on that time frame, that was 2 a.m. my time. So obviously I'm not going to be taking that trade. Obviously I'm fast asleep at that point. However, once I got up, price was around about, I think it was around about here. I was looking for that correction, that first correction, knowing that we're in a high value area to then take the trade. So I took it here. Let's just rewind price back a little bit. So once again, Didn't catch that ideal entry, but price was pretty much in the same position. And then we had the impulse, this correction, not the cleanest price action, but once again, because of the value area we're in, I was happy to be a little bit more discretionary here in this area. So that's in alignment with the plan. And we had this correction, and I got involved once this candle had closed. So I was waiting for a little bit of rejection. I also took pound Aussie at the same time, so I was waiting for these two to develop. And then we had this 1, 2, 3. We had that clear rejection on the 15-minute chart. And that was the entry point for myself to then get involved in that trade. So how did that play out? So once again, haven't really moved too much at this point, and then a few hours later started to develop quite nicely. So how I manage this, and once again, you can go back to the morning routine video to see exactly my thought process at the time of the trade. But once price was around these areas, I'd already moved to break even. The reason being is that if we look at the low of this previous ascending channel, price had almost got there. So this is the area that price can often create deeper corrections or push back up to the upside. So I was happy taking the risk off the table at this point. So at this point, it was running just under 2%. Risk was off the table. Then if we just play this down a little bit more, start to correct around. And once again, just very corrective behavior. I wasn't surprised at this point whether this was going to push back up to the upside, create a double top, or even the outer structure again before the drop. However, I've also seen this so many times when we're at the top and bottom structures where price just corrects around and then we just continue to drop. So it almost looks like this gives the inkling that this is pretty corrective behavior, looks like it's going to move back up, and then what happens? We just completely drop out. So that's what I was looking at as well. And then what did we get? So a few hours later, start to correct back. It wasn't too far away from taking me out of a break even, to be fair. It was still a while away. I mean, what have we got there? Yeah, 18 pips. So still a while away. And then what happened? It started to get closer and closer, and then the London session kicked in, and then started to obviously drop to the downside. So at this point, this was nice. I then locked in profit here. So if we take a look at this low, and we just remove this for a second. If we take a look at that previous low of that pullback, we then, we broke impulsively to the downside. So where I then locked in profit, being a little bit more conservative at this point, was here. So I locked in 2.14. This is 2.13. I did lock in 2.14. And the reason for that is what I was waiting for is the market to give me a sign to then lock in more profit. So ideally, I mean, even if we just use previous price action, let's just use something like this, right? I was looking for something like this, right? And then a break to the downside, let's say something like that. If we'd got something like that, I knew that there was a high probability that price would get to here. It doesn't have to, of course. It can change structure, which is what we did. But at the same time, 8 or 9 times out of 10, this will complete itself. So I knew that in my mind, so I was a little bit more conservative with that. Do I want to be super aggressive in this area, get tagged out for 5%, and then the move completes it for 10.1? Not really. So I'd rather be a little bit more conservative, hence the thought process behind that. And then what do we get? Start to correct around a little bit. Now from my own ASR, I could have been a little bit more aggressive. So I actually left my profit here, but I could have been a little bit more aggressive in all honesty. I could have taken a look with this. I should have been a little bit more on the ball. So that's just a learning curve for me personally. But once again, I could have locked in probably 3.1, giving it just enough room to breathe. And then price at this point just looks like it's developing into a much deeper correction. So I should have taken a message from the market here. And then we pushed to the upside and then completely push back through to form a deeper structure. So I was happy with the trade. Overall, banked 2.14, so decent trade. But once again, I could have leveraged that a little bit more, especially looking at this in hindsight as well. Hindsight is a wonderful thing, but it's all about managing trades actually in the live market. So it's something for myself to learn personally, but giving all that profit back to the market isn't something that I'm very keen on. So just a little refinement there for myself personally. But yeah, it's not too much of a difference. We're talking literally 1%, so 2.1. I would have locked in 3.1, so 1% profit left on the table there. So yeah, that's how the trade played out. Once again, very nice position. I'd take that trade over and over again. But once again, just wanted to highlight the process. This could have been, if we just rewind price, regardless, I mean, this trade played out nicely. But even if this was a loss, let's say price then just pushed back up, right? And I took a loss. same exact thing. You still follow the same process, which is why I mentioned at the start of this clip, is that it's more so the process versus the outcome. Because if you have a strategy that works, no matter what strategy you trade, you do not have to trade the same strategy that I trade to learn from this. It's more so, if you have the set process and you know that you have a high edge within the market that has a probability of playing out over the course of a sequence of trades, then that is the key. As long as you stick to that process, the results then comes as a side effect over time. And it's important not to judge yourself as well on a monthly basis, weekly basis, and more so a quarterly to then 6 month to then yearly performance, because that's what, that's what, if you look at the most successful people in the industry, they always think longer term like that. So you have to pay attention to that. So yeah, that's how the trade played out. More so that, hope you gain some lessons from that. More so from the process. I wasn't going to go into super high detail with the entry criteria or anything like that, because obviously respect to the strategy that I am trading. However, hope you learned something from the process with that. And I just want to take you through the back end as well, just to show you how I track that on Notion. Pretty sure I've shown this multiple times, but just to give you a clear insight into how the different pieces of the jigsaw all add together. So let's get into that right now. So we're now hopped into Notion. So this is a template that I use. Feel free to use this down below in the description. And so here we can see Q1. So January, February, March. These are all my forecasting screenshots. So I like to log my screenshots in Notion, more so as accountability, and it also gives me a head check when I'm doing my ASR. So once I've taken a trade, I'll then go back to this and make sure that I have forecasted the trade in advance, because it gives me that, preparation feel that I've already planned for the trade multiple times, and that sits well with me. So if we take a look at February, these are all the different days of what I've forecasted. So if you take a look at the date of that trade, was the 26th, what was I forecasting? So we can see pound Kiwi short was on the watch list for me. 26th of February, go to setup, high probability in my eyes, and then what do we get? So daily time frame, I was looking at that, and once again this was taken on the 25th, so you can see just for accountability as well. So 25th, what was I looking at? Going into the day ahead, I think this was taken just after 10 p.m. at night, so this was the night before the entry, so we can see 1, 2, 3, just looking for the price to push up just a little bit more before we get the entry to the downside. And then I said pound Kiwi looking good due to the area of value that we're in here, and then looking at this bigger 3-touch channel, we can see that price is also creating a smaller ascending channel within that. So I was looking for selling opportunities, and then once I did wake up, obviously that entry had already materialized, so I was then looking for that first correction, which I then ended up taking. So it's very important, and once again the 15-minute chart, if you just look at more precise entries, that's what it looked like. And the most important thing is that with forecasting, I like to be as accurate as possible. Do you need to, predict each candle by candle what price is going to do? Definitely not. As you can see, slightly different variation to that correction, but ultimately we did get that first correction, which then dropped to the downside. So it's not about perfectionism. A lot of people will probably see this and be like, well, it didn't play out exactly to what you said, but at the same time it's not about that. It's more so, if you've got it ingrained within your mind of what you're looking at and you know how you're going to take that, that is the most important thing. It's not about how it looks or how clean it looks to other people, especially because I'm showing this on YouTube. It's not about how clean that looks to people watching this video. It's more so, what was I looking at the time of the trade? Was that cemented in my mind, and did I manage to take the trade? So that's the most important thing there. So as you can see, I was watching that, and then pound Aussie developed as well, which I took that trade, which you can see once again in the video of the morning routine. But yeah, it's just to give you a clear back end view of how this all pieces together as a piece of the jigsaw. So you can see I forecast these screenshots ahead of time. This was the night before the trade. Once I get into that day, then I know exactly what I'm looking for, and it's just a simple process of then taking the trade. Why? Because if you've already planned this trade 5 times in your head, right, when that trade then materializes, there's no real hesitation. For me, there's always going to be a slight bit, like make sure you reanalyze, make sure you know exactly what you're looking for, make sure it's in alignment with your plan. But then after that, it's more so, because I've planned this so many times, it was just a second nature habit to just take the trade. So that's the goal of getting to, that I like to get to within my forecasting. So hopefully that helps. Hopefully it's give you an insight into the way I do things. And once again, this is just a disclaimer that this is not advising people to do this. This is more so documenting my own process, But I'm pretty sure that you can find value in this, especially if you give this a go for yourself. Once again, no matter what strategy you trade, I'm pretty sure you can apply this. So keep me updated. Hopefully this helps, and hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Lots more to come, but this is the last episode to end out the series, so hopefully you've enjoyed it. Hopefully you've had a good insight into the different processes that I do, so hopefully you enjoy that. But plenty more to come, and I look forward to joining you at the weekend. So tune in Saturday 6 p.m. See you all there. Speak to you all soon.